Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Rick and Morty, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
And Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
We are finally back to talk Rick and Morty Season 4, which premiered last night on Adult Swim. It's been, I don't know, somewhere between 1 and 2 years since, more towards the latter.
Straight up 2 years. Yeah.
Since Rick and Morty Season 3, but we've been covering the show on this podcast since the beginning of Season 2. It's been over 2 years. I actually didn't look at the date before that. That's ridiculous. But
ridiculous, you say?
Ridiculous. But now Rick and Morty has a 100-episode order, and so we'll be doing this every year probably. We'll see.
100 episodes for 100 years. 100 years.
Yeah.
They should have done that.
That's the spirit of the episode. So yeah, we're Overly Animated. We've talked Rick and Morty for several years on this podcast. We also talk about a bunch of other animated shows and movies. Find us at overlyanimated.com. If you want to subscribe, we have a Rick and Morty specific iTunes feed that you can search for on your podcast app. Overly Animated Rick and Morty podcast, that should come up. You can subscribe to that one just to get our Rick and Morty stuff, or our general feed to get all our stuff, but there's a lot of stuff. And then we're also on YouTube, youtube.com/overlyanimated. That would get you all of our podcasts. We're also on like Spotify, but that would be the overall feed. It won't be a long run here, but we have 5 episodes coming up in the next 5 weeks, followed by 5 more. They have not announced when, for season 4. So
another year. Yay. Maybe.
I'm assuming since it's the same season, it'll be like 2 months after that. But with this show, yeah. So who knows?
Well, like we had the production delays with April Fools, and then
that's true. They did the April Fool's thing, and then 3 months later did. Yeah, that was 2 years ago. Okay, so here's season 4 though. Edge of Tomorty, Rick Die Rickpeat. Excuse me. Back to these terrible titles. So, that's a good movie though. But this episode was tangentially related to the movie. It was not really about the movie.
I don't even think I've seen the movie.
I recommend.
It's good. It's actually legitimately good.
So yeah, subscribe to our Rick and Morty stuff. Also make sure you watch the episode, because we're going to get into spoilers right away, so come back after you've watched the Season 4 premiere. Let's get introductory thoughts. Delaney, what were your reactions, and what are your overall thoughts on the Season 4 premiere?
There's a lot. I don't know, like, I feel like there's a lot in this episode, and then also not, I don't know. It's definitely, shocking, you know, it's like Morty alone, like, the whole episode.
We separated them.
Yeah, it was, definitely, like, a crazy thing to do, I think, right off the bat. I enjoyed it. I thought it was like pretty funny, and I watched it twice, which I don't normally do. Shocker, I know, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. I don't know if it was like. I don't know. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to say it's a strong start or not, but I enjoyed it, and I just missed the show, and I guess I didn't really know what to anticipate, because last season, like, the ending was, like, insane, and then it was like, oh, here we are, this is what they do. Yeah. They're like, oh, everything's different, blah, 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 blah. So, but I liked it. It was funny.
Okay. That's the basic requirements, I think, for Rick.
Yeah, it needs to be, and then I do think we did some, I don't think we went out there or anything with our sci-fi tropes, but it was, like, funny. Like, they did, like, some funny, like comments on it, like, when they were like, sci-fi boy.
Yeah. Well, we got some Akira references with that too, which we'll get into. But okay. We like digging into the sci-fi tropes and stuff. I think there's an interesting take on dimension hopping with the fascist stuff, I guess, as a preview. Okay, Michelle, what do you think of the Season 4 premiere?
I honestly didn't know what to expect, because, like Delaney said, last season ended pretty crazy, and I'd say the last 2 seasons in particular just got more and more kind of epic and world buildy and plotty at times. So I wasn't sure if that we were going to start with that kind of vibe or not. But in a lot of ways, weirdly, this felt like it was going back to like earlier Rick and Morty. And I'm like, part of me thinks that's probably a good idea, because there is kind of a meta commentary in the episode when they're like Morty and Rick at the end are saying, oh, like sometimes we'll go do some stuff and sometimes we'll do whatever. So they're already kind of priming you that it's going to be a mix. of maybe plot and shenanigans for the whole, which is like every season, come to think of it. But I guess, like, I don't know, they're being very intentional about it. In this episode feels very intentional because some of the first episodes of seasons have been my favorite because they've been so involved and they built on things that were left like the previous season. And this one really doesn't at all. And I wonder why that decision was made. And I'm curious how that's going to reflect future episodes in season 4. But for what it is, like, I think it was a fun episode. It felt, I guess, like in the classic vein of Rick and Morty more than anything. And I'm curious to see, like, what this season's gonna do different, or if it's, like, just gonna keep building on the threads of last season. Because I feel like now that they have so many episodes, they don't necessarily have to treat this the way they would if they're constantly guessing if they're gonna have more. Like, maybe that's gonna make something really different happen this season. I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. I agree. Like a big theme of this episode and of our discussions probably gonna be like, what is this show now? They did get that big order, the episode order, and there's like a lot of commentary in this episode at the end about like, here's what we're gonna do this season, which is very, very this show. I agree. This is like a classic Rick and Morty episode. I think it's very intentionally just like a very typical, I mean, other than them being separated, it's like a typical Rick and Morty space adventure. They're starting off the season like that. I don't think that means it's going to be every episode. But it was this one, and I thought the result it was pretty good. I'm not like enamored with this episode. I don't think it's incredibly funny, but there are parts I think are very funny, other parts which I think aren't as funny. I think if you want to say the Morty stuff is the A plot with the crystal, I think that's less successful than the Rick stuff in the B plot.
Yeah.
Dimension hopping. I think the fascist Rick stuff is like super funny. But then I think the Morty stuff, it's fine, but most of it wasn't like laugh out loud funny. It was an interesting concept, at least. And the other notable part, other than like it's a classic Rick and Morty episode, they're commenting on it. There's like a lot of commentary. Just, like, despite being a traditional Rick and Morty episode, there's a lot of commentary on quote unquote political stuff, right? Like, I think this is like the most quote unquote political. It's not really political in my eyes, but it's just like social issues, like commenting on the state of our society, like that. And I think it is kind of the episode with the most of that ever. I don't think it's like super intentional.
The bar is super low.
It is very low because the show really tries usually not to say much,
we talk about, this is an amoral show.
Yes. And, we come at stuff from a very progressive standpoint if you're new to this. I mean, this isn't a show that will bring out that type of commentary a lot, so I don't know if you need to be this episode probably the most out of all the ones you're about to hear. But this is a show that I think a lot of times doesn't try to say that much, and for a lot of people that's a big turn off. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, this show isn't very good, or at least like they're turned off by some of the fans, which is fair. But you guys are great though, obviously. This is an episode that actually is trying to say things. Yeah, hugs. I think I really like that it is trying to say things. I think like it has intentional commentary with the fascist plot, which is really good. Like, I think this is the most successful social commentary Rick and Morty has ever had. On the flip side, there's stuff with the hologram, which I don't think is super intentionally saying anything, and I found that off-putting.
Yeah, that was, I think, especially at the end, it's like, oh, like, I'm not sure, like, because some of this stuff, it's like funny and like, oh yeah, but then it kind of turns into this like I don't think you were trying to say anything, but then at the end it was like, what?
Yeah, initially I was like first viewing I was like pretty turned off by the hologram stuff. I'm like, oh, are they trying to balance out the progressive commentary? But I think I know we'll get into this more in a little bit. I think upon further investigation, it wasn't like intentional. But we'll get into that. But that's, I think, a big notable part of this episode too. And I think without those commentary elements, this episode would be somewhat forgettable, which, because it's a little too traditional and not too laugh out loud funny. So I am glad that they're in there, even if it's,
because I mean, that's legitimately like the funniest part of the episode is like when he keeps going to places and they're like, are you into fascism? And he's like, oh my God. And then he's like, I'm going to kill myself. And then he does. So like,
yeah. Okay. And more on that. We can get into it if it's natural. But yeah, Delaney, was that, so you would agree with me that was the better half of the episode?
Oh, definitely. Like, cause like the Morty and Jessica stuff is like so boring anyway, like just in general. And then like, I don't know, like it just wasn't funny or like that interesting, because like they explained the concept at first, which was like cool, like very, very much, what happens when when you're gonna die, like how people react, and it just wasn't very exciting. Like there was like there was some part like it was visually interesting, but it's not like there wasn't like a lot or anything neat going on really. And then, but with Rick, like there was like we're talking about the commentary, and then like the fact that he had to keep being like, yeah, I'm primate descended, or like because they were like shrimp, and then there was like was it Friday Night at Freddy's? That's what they looked like, those little bears.
The bear thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then when they were the wasps, I think is the best part of the whole episode. Like the wasp stuff is so good. So, like, I do think the Rick definitely, like, carried the episode.
Rick carried the episode. Okay.
Which I'm not saying Morty can't. I think in this plot, like, at the beginning I liked it when Morty was like, I'm not listening to Rick, I'm going to do my own thing. But then after that, it was kind of like, I'm bored.
Yeah, I think it was just the direction of the plot less than the characters. I think there's, like, you mentioned visually. Yeah, I think other than the commentary and the funny parts, like what makes this episode memorable, I think the Akira tree stuff is some of the best animation the show has had.
And then when he like murders everybody, like when he turns like the bullies and then he dices up the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like we've seen more of those in recent Rick and Morty, the sci-fi fights, but those are when the show gets to flex its visual muscles. But especially the Akira stuff, I think is very notable too.
Well, it's funny because like the characters look like feet, and then like you have like the character designs aren't like that great or anything, but then you watch like the Akira tree or like the fight scenes.
Yeah, character designs are good for the style of the show. The style of the show is not very detailed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not really that. It's like Simpsons. Like, these aren't complicated character designs. And then you get like these fight scenes that are like visually interesting, and then like stuff like the Akira tree. It's really funny. Like what like basically everything in the background is really what's like the most visually interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle. What about you? Like the Rick plot more, and what favorite parts of the episode do you think you had?
I mean, probably the Rick stuff too, for the reasons you've mentioned. I mean, it's funny trying to figure out how many of these worlds are just devoted to fascism and how many different creatures Rick's going to turn into. And the Morty thing, I mean, I think part of the problem is we've seen Morty like hunger after Jessica so many times, and we've also seen him kind of come into his own and be kind of cool. Like there was that whole Wolf of Wall Street spoof episode in one of the past seasons, which executed like a relatively similar idea for a different outcome. But like, so it's just like, there's not the surprise of being like, wow, Morty's like taking control of society and this is crazy, because that's so not like him, because we've seen him kind of be like this before. So I think that also inherently makes the Rick stuff more interesting, because like this is a new chapter for Rick, at least, even though we've kind of tread this ground with Morty already.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's stuff we've seen from Rick before. In some ways,
in some ways, but like twisted enough to feel a little fresh.
I feel like the twist is like Rick died in this. Like that was kind of a crazy moment.
He died very early,
5 minutes.
Yeah,
that was like it was like a shocking small moment. He just dies, and then
in that part where Morty gets off the ship and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and I think seeing all the protocols and stuff, and then we use the devices from past episodes, I guess, with the cloning, and I feel like the big reason why the Rick stuff I think is successful, at least at a high level, just the multi dimensions, the multi timeline and dimension and whatever universe that's really successful on the show. Whenever we do anything with that, so it's just seeing Rick go to a bunch of different timelines or dimensions and whatever is
what makes what Morty do seem so small fry, like
a little bit. Yeah, like Rick's going to all these different dimensions and Morty's just conquering one dimension. That's like not nearly as cool.
Watching Morty like murder people was a little shocking, but
no, it was.
That's pretty new, yeah. Or somewhat new. I think there's like some pretty interesting parts of the Morty plotline too, which for us, I guess, animation podcast, very notable kind of visual device with seeing all the different death possibilities from a point of view shot on the screen.
And he goes Avatar state.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's at some point with more of the Akira stuff. Yeah, but I just think all the like death scenes surrounding the shot of Morty looking, and then it like sometimes is all Jessica, and sometimes is him dying a bunch of ways. I think that's really cool. I'll reference this, I guess, a few times. I did listen to the first episode of the new official Rick and Morty podcast. Yeah. So, it was very good. And there's a lot of good behind the scenes stuff. They just interviewed a bunch of people who worked on the episode. Director of this episode, Erica Hayes, was saying that they animated like 40 different deaths that are just sprinkled there on screen for like 2 seconds each or something.
I mean, there's a lot. Like, it's.
Yeah. So I think that's like a pretty notable aspect. And I watched I feel like I watched the episode 3 times. I didn't even see all of them. I was just like quickly, you have to like,
it's so fast.
It's hard though. It's hard, especially like, I didn't even get it really like the first time watching was that like with the bully, that all of them were the bully.
Yeah.
Like,
then they transfer to the bully ones once he's afraid of the bully. I mean, or I guess that's his real future. So that is what's likely when he goes down that path. So that's like pretty visually inventive. And then the Akira tree stuff, they said on that podcast that they hired an outside studio to animate the tree part. They had to like go way over budget to do, just because like the Bardell couldn't handle that on their own with the rest of the episode. So I mean, it is like one of the craziest visual things. It's like notably different frame rate and stuff, I think, at that part. So I think that's really cool. Just with the Morty plotline, just a general commentary I think they're intending with, like the YOLO commentary, right? Like if you play life too safe or something, or you're just doing things not to die, then it might not work out how you want.
Well, it's funny because at the end, like you don't learn things from Rick and Morty. Like that's not what the show is.
Then they talk about there being a lesson.
And then at the end, he's like, it's so funny when Rick's like, I don't think that's what you learned something. That's what you did. You learned something today. He's like, I think you have to live in the moment and look ahead. And I was like, did Rick just say that out loud?
Because it is very. I felt like when they're talking about this on the podcast, like that's very on the nose to have like a message from. But then the episode like lampoons it at the end, so I think that's like, okay, that's Rick and Morty.
Well, it's also like funny just because it's Rick and Morty. You're like, what the fuck? Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, that's true. I do like Rick at the end. Like, I learned the opposite lesson from my adventure.
Yes, that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go through the Rick stuff, because, we can get into some of the commentary stuff that the episode does from that. We get, after like Rick dies, then the clones just keep waking up, in like his consciousness goes there.
That's a perfectly good clone.
Yeah. There's I feel like one of the shrimp ones, like, I have 1 million clones, but, yeah. So then the first universe, the Rick is like, by the way, even annoying that I have to ask, but you are down with fascist dystopias, right?
And then he he flips on the light.
Yeah.
And then there's a note where it's like, thanks for
the picture, the signed picture, yes.
Yeah, it's like, thanks for sterilizing China, and it was like, oh my god.
This is probably the funniest parts of the episode.
It's really great. Like and then Rick's like, yes, and he's like, that's pretty liberal.
Took too long saying that, yeah.
That yes was pretty liberal with the letter Y. Yeah, that's really good. I love fascist Morty.
Oh my god, fascist Morty! Like the voice acting for fascist Morty is so good. Like, oh my god, it's so funny.
Yeah, and fascist Morty shoots fascist Rick. He says he was an inferior Rick. He was too political. I want to have fun. Classic Rick and Morty adventures like in the old days. And
then Rick's like, okay, and he's like, you will take me where I want to go. And Rick's like, fuck.
So that line that I quoted, that's like the most, I think that itself is the most commentary part of the episode. This is shockingly so. When on the official podcast, Mike McMahon is talking about how this plot like originates just from like how in things with multiple dimensions, like it always ends up with like a one where the Nazis won. So like he's like the logical extreme of that is like every dimension is one where and he can't escape from that. So I think it starts with like a it's not like the intent isn't right from the beginning. I feel like it's not to comment on stuff, but this line is like pretty clearly commenting on some fans who are like, why are we getting so political in season 3 or with stuff? Like, why we just want classic Rick and Morty adventures. So I love the show because honestly, it's like a pretty big detriment for some people to like watch the show when there's a lot of shit that fans are doing and saying. And the show being aware of it and talking about it makes it a lot better, I think. Like,
Yes.
it's like, oh, at least we are smart enough to like be like lampoon ourselves with this. And, I think this helps a lot, this plot line, with a lot of the surrounding shit with Rick and Morty. And
especially later when he's like, get the Meeseeks box out.
yeah. And well, okay. Well, then okay. We don't even get into the Meeseeks. I want to talk a lot about this episode's use of the Meeseeks. I think that has a lot to do with like what the show is now. Yeah. So he gets Meeseeks, and they all like die, and they go into space and they all die. Also, Gearhead's there. Also, it's like
Why is Gearhead there? I was
like Gearhead's Hitler in this scenario. Like I don't know. Like it's right. Like it's Gears. In the flag. That's my interpretation. I don't know.
It's really weird.
Anyway, so then, okay, we have Shrimp Rick, and the shrimps are also fascists.
Yeah, no, he's like, oh, you're doing me a real favor for not being fascist. And then
he makes a face.
It's so good.
That's a really well executed scene. Also, I like
and then, like he's running away. That's so good.
Yeah.
He's like, why is this the default now?
Yeah, the timing on that scene is really good.
It's so
also,
good.
I like that they comment on the house being the same in all of them.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. Do you live in a tree? No, it looks exactly like this.
We get a quick scene of the fascist Teddy Rick, and then he just kills himself to get out of that
Yeah.
one. And then we get to the
And
wasp.
he's like speaking German.
Yeah, he's actually
He's like,
speaking
nope,
German. Yeah.
I'm done.
He's like,
Too
nope.
far.
Okay, then Wasp Family. I agree. This is probably one of the highlights.
Wasp Family, like, it's so good.
He starts
That
off with
dinner table scene was so long. Oh my god, so many screams.
Were you uncomfortable with the eating of the bug teacher?
Yes, he was very loud and just taking
Maybe
his
sounds
eyeballs out.
uncomfortable.
One
Is
by
that
one.
proboscis or proboscis? I don't know. They're uncomfortable.
What's the proboscis?
That's the part where they like really long and they were sticking it in him. That's what. That's
Delaney knows what that is.
Okay. Yeah.
Shut up.
It
Shut
was
up.
uncomfortable.
I have a question about the wasps, though. So
Yeah.
most of their body is wasp-shaped, but then they still got like Rick heads with like
The shrimp were
pincers
like
coming
that,
out of
too.
Rick heads.
They're
Why don't they
wasp
just give
people.
them
I don't know what to
proper
tell you.
wasp heads.
Yeah, they're like furry wasp people. Yeah.
Well, the fact that they're like, he's like,
70%.
when you're that much of an asshole, you got to have some empathy, and then they're murdering the caterpillar teacher.
It's like, that's just how they are. Yeah. So first he starts off with the Hail Wasp Hitler, and it's like,
He's like, what?
Dude, what?
when you're born that big an asshole, at least you can do is have a little empathy. Yeah. And then,
Come have dinner with my beautiful wasp
yeah.
family.
And he says, drop the Hitler stuff. Wasp Morty's been on some crazy message boards.
That was my favorite. That's my
Oh.
favorite line in the whole episode. It's amazing.
That's also very good commentary here.
Like,
But,
that's amazing.
yeah. Just in general, like, commentary about how, far right in this country is a fascist, and like how there's just people are genuinely fascist now. And,
Yeah.
this is like, I'm just like very surprised the episode like went there and had like, it wasn't like very like commentary on it, but like it had some things to say about it. Like it was lampooning that this is what our world is now. Like Rick can't escape the fascists. Just like, oh, everyone, like there's so many fascists in our world now. Like that was my interpretation.
Also, as much of an asshole Rick is, he's not a Nazi.
Yeah.
That's true. Rick is very bad. He's very terrible.
Like, Rick is not a good person, but he is not a Nazi, and he's like, you're bad.
Even Wasp Family that's just murdering this
they're
sentient
like, oh,
bug.
fuck
Like
them.
they're all like, at least we're not Nazis, right? Like
Yeah, which I think that's great commentary.
It was really good with the Wasp stuff, yeah, that line. And this whole, yeah, I just really think this whole thing was really successful. So in that regard, I guess this episode's very good, because this is like, it is a big part of the episode, and it is like very, very good across the board.
Also, they execute it well. Like, it's not even just that, like it's just so funny.
It is, yeah, it is really funny. Yeah, there's not my funniest moment of the episode. I'll get to that later. I don't know if, yeah. We get, then we get the Kirkland brand Meeseeks boxes.
I don't get
my
it. Can
God.
someone explain this to me?
You don't know Kirkland?
Kirkland's
No.
like the Costco,
It's the Costco
brand.
generic brand, yeah.
Oh, see, I don't go to Costco. I don't know
It's
what
just
that
a
is.
generic brand. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know why they
just a
chose
generic
Kirkland, but yeah.
Okay.
it's-
I mean, I got that joke. Like, I got the joke that it was a generic Meeseeks box, but I didn't get the, like, specific Kirkland, like,
Yeah. I was like, Kirkland's an interesting choice, but
yeah, I'm wondering why that Meeseeks. Like, what are they
am
trying to say
a specific
about
meaning?
Kirkland?
Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah.
Just a generic. I like generic brand Meeseeks as a joke.
Yeah, generic brand Meeseeks is a good joke. That's A+.
In general, there's a lot of Meeseeks in this episode. So there's the Kirkland brand Meeseeks. There's Morty fascist Morty makes some Meeseeks before they die, and then also regular Morty in the other timeline makes Meeseeks to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it very notable. Like, so first of all, we all love Meeseeks. So this is like the show going to the well, but that's like, the show doesn't go to the well. Like, this is, the show doesn't really repeat elements other than, I think, like Mr. Poopy Butthole. They repeated the same stinger to end the season. We weren't happy about that last season, but like, typically the show is like, we're not like a normal show that's just going to repeat its funny elements. We have to be fresh and original, and like, we're going to do new things. So I think like the show showing that it can go back to Meeseeks here, this might be the new status quo, because like, if you have 100 episodes, you got to repeat some stuff. Yeah. So I feel like, if anything, like mostly this is just like, this is very high quality. It is traditional, like a traditional Rick and Morty episode, but like, there's a new this episode, the show is going to be quote unquote mass produced now, but it doesn't, like, I don't think there's going to be a bad thing. The one thing I think feels different is that there's Meeseeks all over this episode, and yeah. So I guess I'm slightly worried about that.
We're going to be on the Meeseeks count.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, Meeseeks were funny in one episode. I don't know if we need to do them every episode.
Well, I mean, I think it's too soon to be concerned about this, because it's only been one episode.
It could just be this episode. This is the Meeseeks return, and we won't do it again. And
well, like, I was like, I don't know, like, I didn't really care about like I thought it was like just in the sequence of events when Morty's like, he pulls out all the Meeseeks and he's like, protect me from the law, like, but it was really funny when Rick's like, yeah, there's a Meeseeks in the glove compartment, and then he's like, kill him, like, that was good.
Yeah, I do think they were well used within the episode.
Yes, so I don't know. I don't think I'm too worried about Mr. Meeseeks being everywhere. It's my concern is going to be more like, how many interdimensional cables are we going to have? Like, that's what I'm really worried about.
10 more over the next 100 episodes. Yeah.
10 more for 100 years.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about 100.
So good.
Yeah, they do say 100 years. I guess
100 years, Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I guess
Works forever.
Yeah, they go back to that. Since we're on the discussion topic, yeah, it's like 100 years. Oh, it's like, oh, absurd. 100 years. No, you have 100 episode order. That's not that absurd. It's not like there will be 10 more years of the show. So I don't know.
Maybe longer, considering there were 2 years between.
Probably longer if it takes them more than that to make them.
I'm gonna be frickin' 45 watching Rick and Morty, guys.
You'll be just as old as Morty was in that future in the old person's home. Perfect.
Oh my god, this stinger in this episode is like magic.
I know. Okay, oh my gosh, it was a good stinger.
I was dead when she started talking. I was like, oh no.
Okay. So that's the Rick plot. Let's talk about the Morty plot line here. I guess I want to talk about the Hollow stuff too. So they're the Crystal Planet. So before the plot lines break out, they're on the Crystal Planet, and setting up from before this the Ricks, because this is good. This is good about the state of the show, because last season we leave us and it's like, oh, Beth and Jerry have retaken power within the family from Rick,
and they're back together.
Yeah, so, and that's unfortunate, but Jerry's like great in this episode, so I'm fine with it. More on that later. And they before the intro, the new intro, we get the Rick like having to ask permission to Morty to have him accompany him on the journey.
Morty's such a little shit about it too.
I know.
So good.
Yeah, which is deserved. And
yes, absolutely, but it's so funny.
And then once they get to the planet, like, what if I want you to jump off the Empire State Building? I have to ask. Yes.
Don't you see how this is going to be a slippery
You seriously
slope?
Don't see how that's a slippery slope. Yeah, that was a great exchange.
So funny.
So that's like the state of the show, is like, we're continuing that from the end of last season, which I think is mostly just to get them to a neutral state to do whatever they want now. But I do like handcuffed Rick. Like, Rick having too much power, I think, could be unfun. Him like taking shit in addition to giving shit, I think, is good.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm happy with, I guess, where we're at now, and the way the episode uses it is pretty funny, as well at the end. So they go to the Crystal Planet, and we get the stuff with the death crystal, show you how you're gonna die, and Morty, do you have a death crystal in your pocket? You little monster, I thought you were masturbating.
That's so
You
good.
took that in
I
stride.
took that in stride. You'd rather I address it? Yeah, like that.
It was so good.
That felt like classic Rick and Morty dialogue. I feel like we talk about Morty masturbating a lot. Like, it's a lot. I feel like that's multiple
To be fair,
times.
he did have a baby.
Oh my god, he did.
Long time ago. Yeah. And, okay, so then we get the crisis and detection hologram.
I will say, when Rick died, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think that's an effective moment.
Yes, definitely.
But then the hologram shows up. Rick put it in Morty. That checks out.
He's in his spine. So good.
Yeah, and the main shtick with the hologram is that's like, oh, that was holophobic.
Yeah.
So that's solid. Problematic wordplay aside. Mike McMahon on the podcast is mostly just talking about, like, he thought that's a funny concept that the hologram, like, it sounded like he'd seen it before in a different, like, piece of media. So this might be like just like a tropey thing of like a hologram wanting rights or something. But I do think it's a funny concept. I guess the issue is that it like comes across as satirizing people want it, like
people who say they're tolerant or being woke. Like, I'm not. Yeah,
I didn't take it as bad until the end.
Yeah.
The bad part is at the end when he's like, I thought you
liked being. He's like, because that was my only choice. I'm like, what are you saying here?
Yeah, and I really think they're not trying to say anything.
No.
Like that.
What?
Yeah.
I did, sometimes if you're not trying to say something, like, it still can come off a way though that can be read a certain
Yeah, and
way.
in that
That's
regard,
the
you should
real
say
question.
something so that your message is not misinterpreted. But yeah, he's like at the end when the hollow Rick becomes the norm, like the giant, I don't know, Ikirais. That whole sequence is very strange, and
Yes.
it's like it's only because it's only because I had to be one. He fucking be one, he says. So then it's like, people not in positions of power only stick up for the rights of the non-privileged because they are not privileged. That's like a bad message. If that's what the show is trying to say.
It's like, ooh, that's not what we wanted.
I mean, it's like very cynical, which fits this show, I guess. But I do think it's most. I wish that line wasn't there at the end because I do agree it works a lot.
Because
Better
in the
without
middle,
that.
I thought it was really funny. He was like, "That's some racist Isaac Asimov bullshit." Like, that was a really funny line.
And it is funny throughout. It just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, at the end, because I thought it was like good commentary, like at first, and then at the end, I was like, "What? What happened?"
Yeah. I guess the counterpoint would be like, it's just the show being cynical about everyone just being selfish. And it's so like, of course, like, so it's like everyone's selfish, people
and of
that
course
say
it is
they're
a
tolerant
hologram.
are selfish themselves. And, I don't think it's like the end of the world or anything like that the show did this, but like, I do wish that in an episode where it had like a very aware, very good commentary with the fascist stuff, I wish this stuff was treated in kind. And it's like, it's also like, okay, Rick and Morty's not suddenly going to be a woke show. That's what this tells me too. The third thing, cause it had another kind of commentary thing was, gaslighting, a quick moment with the show.
That was something I wasn't ready for. I was
not
like,
ready for
what?
that either. I was
So
like,
there's
It was
what
very
the fuck?
fast.
What just
Like-
happened?
Oh,
Yeah,
what?
like the talk show host. So, the male talk show says, or the female show host says, "I don't always do this. Don't gaslight me." And the male one says, "Gaslighting doesn't exist. You made it up because you're fucking crazy."
Yep.
It's like, I feel like that's like funnier on the page than it like felt in the moment. Like, obviously it's a joke, but
It's a little shocking,
still,
but it's. I mean, so on the surface, it's like progressive commentary, right? It's like,
Yes.
So at least
He
it's
literally
like,
gaslights her while
he's like, obviously
Yeah.
they're satirizing that dude because he's gaslighting her while not saying it's not gaslighting. So, but it's not enough. Like, it's like one line, right? Like, it's too quick to.
it's also
comment
I
on
feel like
this.
it's too much when we have like the Nazis and
It's a
also
lot.
right? Like, why are we
And the
putting this extra
and the
thing in there?
hologram. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot, guys. Like,
Yeah. So I don't know if this was like super successful, but like, the show's aware of what gaslighting. I guess this, I had the thought. I've been more, I don't know, 12 hours ago, I was more down on, the episode. And I'm like, that's like rich, this show, like being aware of gaslighting because Rick gaslights people in the show constantly and the show never cares about that.
No, doesn't.
So that was I think you could interpret it like that too. Of course, the show never is endorsing Rick. It's this classic thing where it's like the Fight Club main character. It's like, you're not supposed to worship this character. You're supposed to he's supposed to be a flawed person.
He's a bad person.
Yeah, so like Rick.
I wish they'd make him more overtly awful though, because it does feel kind of easy to admire Rick sometimes, because he's not often wrong, is he? Does he ever really say I'm sorry, I messed up? That never happens. He usually is right about things. That's what sucks.
That's I think that's a reason to be happy with this new status quo, because Rick being held in check more makes him less powerful, less likely to be worshipped. He's
I think he's being held in check though, because you're saying you thought Gary was really good in this episode, Dylan, but he's literally in it for 5 seconds, and same with Beth.
That's the appropriate amount of Jerry is 5 seconds. So
but they nothing they say is really going to affect Rick, and we know that.
It's true. Despite being quote unquote confined, he still does what he wants, right?
But the thing was he respected Morty. I'm curious, what if Morty says no? And that's the other thing too, is that's kind of what this episode's about too. Because Morty doesn't clone him.
Yeah, that's true. Rick and Boss Rick have to clone him. Yeah,
he does, but it's on accident because he didn't intend for this to happen. Because he had disabled his cloning equipment. It was I disabled my clone equipment several seasons ago.
Yeah, but then there's other universes, and he can get into
that wasn't his intention.
Yeah, I think this concept of Morty fighting back against Rick we got into this last season a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that was successful. So I think that's a way to hold Rick in check more too, is Morty just doesn't do what he says. So I think we could see more of that this season. But yeah, so that would be the reason the gaslighting stuff wasn't great. But I guess overall I'm maybe more happy that the show is at least aware of what gaslighting is and telling us that, because that's relevant to the show. So moving forward, we've established that we're aware of that. Okay, good. I don't know. I'd rather the show try to address progressive things unsuccessfully than ignore them completely. That's my overall stance.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
I don't know if I agree.
The argument would be, I think, and fair to disagree, of course, but it's I don't know. You feel maybe more uncomfortable if the show is not commenting on anything, or at least it's okay, we're aware of how the world is right now, and I think that's what this episode kind of says, especially with the fascist stuff. Other thoughts on that, or back to wherever we were? I don't remember. The more we're getting into the Morty plotline. Okay, we can talk more about the Morty following the crystal around. Hollow Rick was protesting. I think that was funny. And then there's the Rick,
Berkeley one.
The Berkeley one. I thought that was funny. Yeah. In animation corner here, we had the bully saying, "Only if the events of the Pixar movie Coco are to be believed," which I doubt.
That was funny.
It took me by surprise, but I liked it.
It's a Coco reference.
I was is into
random.
Coco? Yeah, it's so random.
That was really random. The Akira stuff was also random, but that's, I guess, this show's type of thing. We get, we Morty fighting everyone, in the action sequence, and then we're getting into the Akira stuff here, and, we got the, Morty turns himself in, tells the judge her husband's last words. I thought that part was really long. It's a funny concept, but
it is funny. But it went on too long. That's the thing. It's annoying.
It went on.
I will say, I really when he comes down and he's "Why are you letting me do this?" He's "I do as the crystal comes in."
That was a good line read. Yeah, I like that.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
Fake Nancy Grace, that was weird too.
Yes.
And it's I haven't heard her in a while. Yeah, and he's a free young man, and as far as the continuity goes, the reset button has been hit.
And we're we're gonna forget he murdered a bunch of people.
Fair. And then he's
also the news scrolling was hilarious.
Yeah, it's talking about the judge killed herself, right? At some point too.
And then the one right as it starts with the when the gaslighting one, they're it doesn't matter how you say LaCroix, you sound fucking stupid. That was my favorite. That was really good.
I like that. Where's the show's LaCroix episode? I feel that's right.
Okay, it's time for we need to have a lampooning alien seltzer. It's important. Where is it?
It's important. I feel like with Pokemon coming out, they need to do because they've asked for Nintendo Switches. Was it Switches or was it some other Nintendo console? 3DS, I think. They had that whole joke with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that could be something the show talks about, but we're not going to be timely with references here, so that's not happening. And then he's like, Jessica's like, we're going to go skinny dipping, and then he's like, no, and
this is the last time I'm having this conversation fully
with clothes on. Yes.
Yeah. One more, I guess.
And then he's like, I think we're going to get together in our 40s.
In our 40s, yeah. Hobbles away.
Okay, let's talk about Akira, because Morty like forms into the flesh thing, which turns into a tree, and then there's a bunch with like the feral fluid here, and they talked about that in the podcast too. I feel like the episode doesn't make that super clear what that is, but then there's like Hollow Rick and so everything with Akira. So watched Akira today. I'm fully prepared for this podcast.
You watched Akira for this podcast?
I had off today, so I had a lot of. I'm not going to be this prepared for other ones, but okay, here you go. So here's the look. We're an animation podcast. We need to talk about the Akira references. So mainly, it's just like him being this like fleshy giant thing bursting out of his body, which happens in that movie. It's like the most iconic part. So that's basically it. Also, like, when he's like like the military is trying to, and he like is destroying the military and he's like kind of possessed, like that mirrors the movie too. My favorite detail, Ryan Elder, the composer, said in the podcast, and I noticed this too, is that there's like a very iconic like drum procession beat in the movie. And they do put that into some of the Akira scenes here.
That's good.
So I really like that. But yeah, I don't know. But okay, and then obviously with the Akira, so here's my favorite part of the episode is Jerry at the end. He says,
"Oh my god, are you serious?
Oh, real nice, Rick, turning our son into an Akira, real nice." And then he says, "I don't want to see any more anime stuff happening to my son, Buster."
Oh my god!
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, I shouldn't be surprised.
That was absolutely the funniest part of the episode. Jerry saying Akira and anime.
Anime. So good. Oh
Chris Parnell really killed that like that.
It's so funny. Ooh, it's even funnier the second time.
It's
so stupid. I hate Jerry so much.
It's the Jerry who try hard way of trying to say anime the real way.
Oh.
Yeah, it fits of him. It's like unexpected and just makes everything worth it with the nonsense with that.
It makes it so worth it to have this stupid like the whole episode's anime reference just for the end.
Yeah, no more anime stuff happening.
So
Buster,
good.
yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, it's Jerry's putting his foot down about anime. So no more anime. Okay.
And I like how Rick like scares him immediately afterwards. It's so good.
He has a AIDS finger. Yeah, and he's also Jerry says, "This is my house. I'll eat any ass I want."
Yeah, that was good.
Classic Jerry.
That was also classic Jerry.
This is Jerry. This is absolutely the funniest per screen time Jerry has ever been. Like usually he's on way too long on the episode and he's not that funny.
Right.
And he was on very short amount of time in this episode and he was funny constantly. So this is like
obviously age jokes aren't that great. But when he touches him and then he goes, "You skipped HIV," that was like
that's a good
That was good.
That's true. Not that great, but that was a funny take on it, I guess. So then they get into the sometimes classic stuff, sometimes do whatever. But I don't know. We're talking about the no other Akira commentary. But yeah, we're happy. There's Coco and Akira in this episode, right? So there's a lot of animation references. Okay, here's a part. So I do think it's funny at the end when Summer joins in and then
it's so funny.
Summer!
Like isolate her and then she's like,
the part where he's like, "What did you just say?" And she's like, "Oh," and then he's like, "I record everything." Yeah. Oh my god.
It's like, of course. I thought that was funny.
It was, and then they're like, "You ruined it."
I don't like the treatment of Summer this episode, though.
Well, it's not very, like, season 1 again. Like, Summer's come a long way, but nobody else in the family is highlighted yet.
What was great about season 3 was Beth and Summer, and I'm like, bring them back. Bring them back.
Yeah, last season, Summer was a part of the gang, and we just ignore that here. Like, she is just the butt of jokes here.
That's what I'm saying! It's just like season 1. on. Plus, like, didn't Beth like potentially clone herself to go have like adventures?
Yes.
And so, like, who knows if that's the real Beth?
Yeah, we don't know if it's the real Beth.
To talk about it right now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, last season's finale addressed that, but I do think it's on the table for one of these 5 episodes or something to be the adventures of real Beth in space. I think that's possible.
That'd be awesome.
Well, that's the thing. So they said sometimes classic Rick and Morty, sometimes other stuff. So I think they're gonna do episodes like this, which are pretty non-serialized, but then they're also on the table is the 3 elements I would say that could come back are clone Beth / real Beth, evil Morty.
You didn't know Morty gotta.
Evil Morty is the most glaring plot thing. And in the podcast, I noted they said they have like endgame stuff planned out. And I was like, it's like, of course. But no, I was taken aback by it. I was like, what? The show actually plans stuff out? So, okay, I guess that got it. What else could that mean besides Evil Morty?
Right.
So,
and Phoenix Person.
Yeah, Bird Person would be the third thing. Yeah, Phoenix Person. And Tammy. If I remember correctly, last season we developed a big theory on this podcast that Tammy is one of Jessica's friends in disguise.
Oh my god, I can't believe we're bringing that back.
Well, here's the thing. That friend is in the Stinger. So,
oh my god, Dylan!
That design is still there. That character, she's not like important, but she is there in the Stinger. So, I actually think like, I was so convinced they were going to do it last season, but then they also did the thing where they like ran out of time. Like they cut the season short. So like maybe they were going to do it. And then it's like, will anyone remember 2 years later who this is? Like probably not, but so I think that if they were going to do it, they should drop it because no one will understand. But it would be pretty cool if Tammy turned up as like, oh, I was just Summer's friend this whole time. I think that's something with Tammy definitely on the table too. So I think in general, you know, like that sounds appealing as, you know, just some one-off episodes, some episodes where we do plot stuff.
Well, I like the, you know, the idea that if we have more room, like we can really explore and like, cause my thing is like, you know, saying things like quote unquote classic Rick and Morty makes my skin crawl, but because saying things like that is annoying, but like, that's the strength of Rick and Morty is like these outlandish sci-fi tropes. And, you know, they take everything to the extreme and then we can also do things like that and have like really cool plot stuff. So like, I'm excited to have both. Like, I don't think you have to have like either or.
I don't think they've ever had just either or anyway. So, yeah, it seems like now they don't have to worry about shoving all the plot before they get canceled or something.
Yeah, I like having time to like stretch things out.
Yeah, I think it's promising for like, cause you heard the news of like they get 100 episode order. It's like, this is exciting because more Rick and Morty, but it's like,
what does this mean for?
What does this mean? Because like when you have like a really high quality show, then it's like a ton of episodes. That's maybe worrying.
Well, so especially I think because like you know like you can have a really good show and it gets like and you know it gets canceled and that's sad. But then like a show is like you know we're in like before this we were like we're in the middle of Rick and Morty. And now it's like, oh God, we're not in the middle. So like, that's a lot. And like, you know, you can really like, the quality can really decline. And like, it's hard to imagine Rick and Morty as something like Family Guy.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want it to turn into Family Guy.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's definitely scary. So that's something I'm curious to see. Cause like, I mean, Rick and Morty definitely can have like, you know, these really good episodes that aren't necessarily so plot driven. But it's also like, how much can we handle?
Yeah. And I think this episode does some stuff to assuage those fears. So that's good.
Yes.
And it does say it's like a classic Rick and Morty episode, but it also kind of lampoons that with, the fascist
them talking
party.
about,
yeah. So, I think, and you know, that's like classic. This show is like, it is something and then it's also lampooning it. So it's nothing like which,
I mean, I'm really like, you know, I'm kind of like this whole like referential, this, you know, commentary. Like I'm excited. Like if we have 100 episodes, we have more room to do stuff like that. If the show wants to comment on stuff, I'm fine with that. But I am more happy with it since I thought this was well executed.
Yeah. And I like them commenting on themselves too. I think that was definitely good for the premiere. Okay, I think last part we didn't talk about was the beginning with Morty on Jessica's Instagram. And mostly just want to...
I'm looking at her necklace.
Yeah. And then it's a selfie with her Dead grandma. Yeah.
Summer has a good line too.
So the best part is Summer's part.
Summer.
Yes.
Beth is like, honey, stop raising your father's cholesterol so you can take a hot funeral selfie.
That was good.
I never get to do anything. Yeah, that was really good.
And then Beth was like, stop being a creepy pervert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Calling people out. Rick has like an auto response chip in him too.
That was good.
That's good.
So I can spend time with my family. You are spending time with your family.
What, he was working on his Amazon wish
Yeah,
list?
that
was good.
In the meantime?
Multitasking.
What does Rick have a wish list for? I guess if they're a better family now, they get gifts.
Weapons is my guess.
I don't think the things Rick wants you can buy on Amazon.
That's true. Like, he's probably like...
Intergalactic. Maybe that's Amazon.
Space Amazon.
Space Amazon feels like an episode of the show.
I'm kind of okay with that. I'm cool.
Doctor Who did Space Amazon recently, actually. But this feels like evil working conditions exposed at like Galactic. I don't know. We could do a lot of Rick and Morty things. So now that Rick and Morty's back, as the world has changed 2 years later, we could do many, many things with the show, and we're excited to see what the show will do. Delaney, anything else from the episode you have highlighted or final thoughts here?
I think we talked about everything. Like, I did enjoy this episode. And talking about it, I think I'm more excited for the rest of the season. And I'm just glad Rick and Morty's back. I missed it. I knew it'd been a long time, but until I was like looking stuff up, I was like, oh my god, it's been 2 years. What?
I didn't realize that either.
I was like, oh god.
Yeah. The thing I missed is the stinger. So in between the final thoughts is the stinger. Okay. So Jessica reveals she wants to work in hospice, and that's why.
I want to say to people who have no one left in the world, I love you, blank, over and over again.
Oh, good. And then Rick shows up, and Morty's like, "Oh, you want to cover me in gasoline and spiders?
Like, I don't care."
Yeah, hey Morty, want to quick favor? Want to cover me in gasoline and spiders? Yeah, I'm in. Wasn't my first pitch, but hey, not going to waste this opportunity. Like, it's just a funny read at the end with that last line. But
so good.
Why does he want to do that? Like, come on, Rick. What are you doing that for?
What is the purpose
for
of
anything?
It's for science and stuff. I don't know. But yeah, that's like the stinger. As I think it's pointed out by Alex, right? The stinger's usually not like concluding the episode here. So this was interesting that
like we've had things where like references from the episode are like when they like transformed Summer's ex-boyfriend, like he was in the stinger.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like this is definitely like we learned something. Like,
yeah, and I think really you could separate it from the rest of the episode, but it's like, oh, here's a dark twist that you could throw in there.
Funny.
Then.
Well, I feel like there had to be because it just seemed so implausible that they would end up together happy. So like I was like, oh yes, this explains everything. Okay.
That's a good point. It makes it more realistic, and it doesn't. We don't have to look out for the Morty Jessica shipping now. We can hold off because they're dead. No, and now we know in no future do they end up together. It's confirmed.
No, when he's like, God, it was just so funny when she's like, "What do you want to do?" Oh, I want to work at hospice. I was like,
my dream as a young teen girl.
So funny.
Okay, there you go. Michelle, final thoughts.
I agree with Delaney that I think I like this episode a little more now that we've talked it through. I am honestly ready for some plot though, because it has been 2 years, so there's only so much longer I can hold out for that good plot. And I never say that about shows, but for this one, like it's at a point where I am pretty invested in like Evil Morty and some of that other stuff. I want to see Beth! I want to see Beth in space, you guys. Yeah. I want it to happen soon.
Yeah. Last season, we had a similarly long wait, and we got the first episode was like a huge plot episode.
I know! That's why this threw me so much.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely understand that. Yeah. I don't know if the old man in the seat is next week.
That could mean anything. Titles are mischievous. Yeah.
There's no Rick or Morty in that title. What are they doing? The old man in the seat.
Maybe it's Jerry. Maybe he's in the seat.
So presumably the old man is Rick, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, it was a fun premiere. I think like I want the season to be stronger than this episode for sure. Like I think Rick and Morty can be stronger here, but it's a solid premiere and it does some interesting things I wasn't expecting the show to get into. So, looking forward to the next only 4 episodes before whatever break.
Maybe they'll all be on HBO Max and it'll be fine. Who knows?
What am I like? How am I like? Why is this show gonna have a was it gonna be like a mid-season finale? Like, what the heck?
Who knows? I don't know if it's an airing decision or a production decision. I mean, it is stopping like December 8th. So it's like that's typically shows will take off like 2 weeks for Christmas, New Year's anyway. But this doesn't sound like that. Like the way they said it was 5 episodes. So it doesn't sound like it'll be back in January. It sounds like it would maybe be like February or March or something.
March is long.
That's my prediction. It would be like March, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. Are they trying to coincide with sweeps like November here? Then we'll do like May, but I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. And also, yeah, the show will be on HBO Max, I think, like in addition to Hulu. And that was a big deal. But
is it really?
Yeah, they announced that. Yeah.
Apparently they're pulling forward the UK premiere of season 4. It was supposed to air in January. Now it's airing like in 9 days.
Yay! Yay for UK.
Because everyone complained.
Why is this a discussion point?
I don't know. It's a cool thing I just found.
It's tangentially related.
Where did you see it? Twitter, I assume.
No, it's my Discover Google. It's from Deadline.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Let everyone see. Yeah, I'm sure the UK fans will be happy that they'll finally get to see this episode in a few weeks, and not now when they definitely pirated it. But that's
yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
some of the older fans might be very attached to their on-air.
Maybe we have some. We got UK people listening to the podcast. You don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, shout out
nice
to them.
85-year-olds.
Hey, look, Michelle, I watched this live on cable on Adult Swim. Okay, so people still do that.
I watched this live on the internet.
I watched it on the internet at work today.
I streamed it from Adult Swim.
Adult Swim, yeah, it's on Adult Swim right now.
So we all watched it legally,
watch
at
it for
least.
free.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's know what you thought of Edge of Tomorty, Rick Die, Rickpeat. On overlyanimated.com, we got a comment section there. If you go to our YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated, you could comment on the video there, or you come talk to us on our Discord at overlyanimated.com/Discord for the invite link. We have a Rick and Morty channel. We were discussing the premiere last night. As it was airing, I don't know if I'm gonna stay out most nights, but it's pretty late. But we got that. And if you enjoyed this, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Kent, A.K. Brockman. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. So moving forward, I guess it's just then the beginning. Well, podcast out Monday nights, probably, of Rick and Morty. Would love to do it after the episode, but it's ridiculous. It's very late, so we're gonna do it Monday night. So you'll have it for your Tuesday morning.
We're lucky if we can watch it live. Okay, we're old.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know if there's a few other Rick and Morty podcasts. I don't know if any of them do it right after the episode. I think we all like kind of wait, but So look for this Monday night, Tuesday mornings moving forward. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.